Oh, good afternoon, folks. Sorry I haven't posted in a second. I've been kind of busy, and I've actually had some really bad back spasms recently. And it's had me a little irritable and slowed down that dealing with regular business stuff. But with that being said, I was wanting to keep my word and start posting more regularly, especially with other work, not just honing. So that way I can share what I know, share what I do. So right now, what I'm working on is, this is an old Japanese strop. It's a extra heavy French shell hide. I got to go back and redo a lot of it because I messed it up while repairing the handle. But I went through and made sure it was nice and flat. I cleaned it up real nice and neat, and then I re-slicked it. I used a slicker to smooth it out, make it real smooth again, like these old shells are known to have. Just cleaned it up and fed it real well. I gave it a few rounds of some food to keep it alive. And this eventually will darken or lighten up a little bit more. But the main thing was that it had really weak thread on the handles. I mean, it was bad. Like, you just did that with it and it would peel off. So I went back through, and I'll post some pictures on some platforms about it. I went back through. I also gave it red thread. I think it'll look really neat. Yeah, I know it's got gold on there, but the red is a nice little touch. So before I do the red though, what I do is I go through with a really a heavier nylon, which is just, it's basically like upholstery thread, and that is what's actually going to hold the handle to the strop itself. So once I do that and I get that all nice and logged in, then I will go through with red and just go back through and send it through. The process for this is basically self-explanatory. Remove all your threads. Then I got to go through and I don't ream, but clean the holes out. There's a name for it, you guys. I'm not a professional leather worker, all right? I've never claimed to be. I can restore some strops and take care of my collection and bring some back well enough that, to sell them for the shop. But basically, you just clean that hole out real nice and neat. This is yes, I know we have wooden things that you sit on, vices that will hold this all straight in one spot so I can do it. But the holes are a little bit smaller. I gotta be able to move it around. I've got one of those wooden vices that I put underneath my butt and sit on. And this is the way it usually works out best to do it. It allows me to really fine-tune my movements here. So, pair of needle nose pliers, sometimes pulling that through. You don't want to yank too hard. The threads get a pretty good amount of work on themselves pulling through here, so there is times where you got to keep rethreading. I'm not going to get into the exact methods that I use to, finish my run. As far as that, I'm not, I guess you could call it educational, but it's I don't know. I'm just making a video with some content that I don't always see a lot of. There isn't a whole lot of content of people restoring strops Well, restoring them, and I don't mean to sound pompous when I say this, but properly. And right now, I'm going to tell you what. If this was old and dry, right, and it wasn't so, I mean, it's definitely alive and supple right now because I've done worked it. But if it was old and kind of, not as flexible and I wanted to restore it, I'm not going to dunk this in Neat's foot oil, and nor will I ever slather it up with Neat's foot oil, all right? Neat's foot oil, made from boiling feet of cows, that's not what I'm going to use to bring back my antique Japanese Showa era French horsehide shelf strap. It's not happening, all right? You can say what you want about me, you can say what you want about my abilities, but sometimes the things I say or do make a lot of sense, and I believe that that would be one of them. I actually had it out with somebody on, I've recently started using Reddit as just another platform to share and see and unite, gain wisdom from people, whatever you want to call it. But I had posted a picture of a new in-box Japanese strap, Pigeon brand, and it was a Pigeon brand 4000. All right, folks, it was a Pigeon brand 4000 strap. Which, to be honest with you, was really like top shelf. It was 5 mil, maybe a little bit more in thickness. It was a very nice top level strap, and my Japanese mentor slash supplier for certain things, it was in his brother's collection, and when I contacted him, he said he wasn't sure. He didn't think that it was, their flagship model, but there just isn't any records stating otherwise. You can find the 4000s, but you don't find any 6 or 8 or anything like that. All straps are different, a Red Imp 700C is basically the better Red Imp. You look at Nakayama's work, or Kaneyama's work. 90K, that's 200 to 90K. That is a huge difference in model numbers. And you can, if you've ever had the opportunity, which I most absolutely definitely have, to have multiple models of any one brand, you will see that there is a difference. You have what's called, and if you aren't aware of this, when you see the items that say like 4 barbers only or 4 barbers use, it goes back to the old trade rule that there is things civilians cannot buy. There is stores that sell things you cannot buy unless you are a licensed barber. Barber supply shops, you can't just walk in there and buy shit, all right? You gotta be a barber or a beautician, a cosmetologist. You gotta have a license. You gotta be a professional. So with that being said, a lot of strops, especially older ones, they will have like the low to high grade civilian, and then they will have low to high professional, all right? And there was catalogs and records showing that the 4000 was most definitely not the lowest end of the professional, but there was nothing showing that there was anything over top of it. And this fella got on to, he kind of popped in on one of my posts and said, nice strop, nice mid-range strop, or something like mid-grade back then, top shelf today. So I asked him, like, why would you say that that's mid-grade? Is it because it says 4,000 and not like 90K or whatever? I don't know where you're coming from on this, or where you got your info. You know, I mean, if you got an 8,000, 10,000, you know, pigeon branch, please show it to me. I want to see it. You know, I'm trying to learn. I collect strops and I like them and I'm passionate about it and I study the history on them. I'd like to know. Well, he begins to tell me that, you know, top shelf strops were 10 millimeters thick. That's 20-ounce leather. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't any history of there being strops of that size, because there is. One-off pieces commissioned from, you know, by a barber from a local leather shop or whatever that existed. You know, he brought up something about, well, you don't see them too much after tractors came around. Well, a professional barber strop is not the same as the leather drive belt for a steam engine, and that's basically what he's getting at. And then he tried to tell me, oh, they were mainly like Clydesdale or whatever. I've got Clydesdale strops. You know, like I didn't understand why he would pop in there and just automatically assume that, like, I just received that strop, or I don't know anything about it and I'm just another guy posting things that I just got. And it's mainly, a lot of it is because there's this whole stigmata in this razor scene about, like, not being new to it. You know, like, everybody wants to talk about how you know, how long they've been doing it or how great they are, you know, little things like that. And they talk to others as if they don't know anything about it. And, you know, here I am, just sharing some of my collection pieces, and here's a guy telling me about how, well, it's a nice mid-grade. Like, why would you, you know what? Like, why would you even say anything? Like, and I'm sorry, but there's just no evidence that antique strop makers, and I don't mean the leather worker up the street that made a strop one time for a barber or for a customer, you know, one-off jobbies, or, you know, anything like that. There's no catalog evidence that professional barber strop makers were making 20-ounce strops, because that size of leather would be so heavy that to withstand use and life, it would need a clasp that was forged steel. You know, like regular clasp isn't going to cut it, and it would be too cumbersome. Could you imagine lifting, you know, 26 inches of 20-ounce leather and pulling it taut to strap on? I mean, you might find one on like a bench, like a lip shawl type deal, which I've got those. They never made them that big. But anyways, regardless, sorry, I'm going on a tantrum here. So this is a 5260, and you can tell by the thickness of it, this is most definitely like mid-range. You know, it's not super duper thin like some of them, you know, but it does have some girth to it. You know, it's not a red back, so it's not super stiff. It's very broken and fine. You know, it's got thick ends where the leather tends to be a little thicker at the ends than in the center, and that's not so much from use. That's by design, because those are the stress points. That's where people are holding them, pulling on them, everything else. So after putting in the black strong nylon stitching that's going to last a lifetime, then we'll switch over to the red. What I also use this time to do is to do any kind of repairs or cleanup on the clasp, bolster, whatever. I thought of maybe putting I've got a powder coat setup that I haven't used yet. And I thought about powder coating this red to match that thread. Maybe post in the comments if you think that's a good idea. If not, then don't tell me how it's a don't do like everybody seems to do on Reddit and come in and tell me how it's a terrible idea or doubt how I would be able to do it or something else. I posted first round pics of these MOPs that I'm working on for a customer turned friend, right? And yes, that is just tacked on one single drop of CA glue. It was enough for me to get my measurements, get my setting, and to get a rough shape. Are they finished? No freaking way. All right, they'll be finished when I go through and pin each and every one of those pieces like any other multi-piece, you know, mother of pearl scale was made. And this is New Zealand white, New Zealand gray. I believe this is China yellow MOP here, and then we have Japanese abalone, and then the big one that I'm super stoked and excited about, Mexican abalone on the very ends. And that stuff is quite expensive. It's almost twice the price of the other abalones that we use, and I just love the gray. Some people call it black, some people call it gray. When it gets a little polished and sanded down, it starts turning black, and it's just, that stuff is just amazing to me. I don't know if this camera's picking it all up, how the light just dances on those dark, on the tips. You know, one minute they're light gray, the next minute they're dark as night, the next minute they're rainbow. It's just a beautiful material. I really like it. I think one of my next projects coming up is I want to build something that I've never seen done, and I've got this nice Wade & Butcher 8/8 here, FBU, and it's good 8/8 blade. So I'm going to make a set of mother of pearl scales for a Wade & Butcher 8/8. I've never seen it. I've never seen anybody do it. I'm pretty sure it was never made. Here we go, getting into the professional series of things. FBU, that was sold as a tool, not a status symbol, not something to make your fancy, you know, pants feel good about themselves. It wasn't made to be pretty. It was made with a large blade, so a barber didn't have to keep wiping off his razor after every stroke when he's doing hundreds of shaves in a day, you know, in the Wild West or wherever it may have been. That was a tool, all right? That was a tool. These ivory scaled JRs, which are just beautiful razors. These were, you know, more of a collector's series type thing that, you know, a guy who had a little bit of money would have in his bathroom. It's what, when I first started getting into this, my uncles would tell me how I would talk, you know, they'd hear me say Wade & Butcher, and I would talk about wanting to do this and that with them, and why are you going to waste that good material on those pieces of shit? And I used to always say, like, think to myself, like, why do they say that? Why do they say that? And it's not because they don't like Wade & Butcher, it's because at that, you know, back in the day, Wade & Butcher was not, it was not considered the best of the best. Did they make nice razors? Yes, they did. But, I mean, you know, I got a double arrow, and that's supposed to be the nice, the gold dollars, you know, like most places did make nice ones, especially when, you know, they made little box sets and stuff like that. But with that being said, think about most of the Wade & Butchers you've ever seen. You've never seen an 8/8 with mother of pearl scales, and typically you see more Wade & Butchers with old black horn scales. You know, they were not the high-end revered pieces that they are today, modern us has made them into, you know, the most desirable razor, to where people pay a ton of money for them as if they're super rare, and you can't go anywhere without seeing one or hearing about one or having one or finding one, you know. And then the old Sheffield steel small 5/8 hollow ground from the firm you've never heard of, have never seen. Oh, it's not a way to butcher, so it's not good. Or same with Soligen blades, like Soligen blades that have tobacco advertisements on them. Those are small run models, and in the eyes of like collecting, they're more rare, and by all rights should be sought after and priced accordingly. But they're not, because well, nobody's getting tattoos of Westerbros or Simmons Hardware logos. Same with the Red Imp, selling nice. I've got some untouched Red Imp leather, all right, and I could probably sell one of those for well over $100, no problem, no questions asked. Pop up with an Illinois strop that is really old and not as common, and it's it ain't even worth the fee it would cost to sell it on a resale site or platform. And it's a buyer's market. But anyways, enough of me complaining about that kind of stuff. I'm not here to do that. 22 minutes of me complaining about others and how I feel about stuff is not what I'm here for. So this is a common replacement thing that I do with a lot of these. I'll call them smaller straps. I mean, they're not super small. They're about 23 inches total, 16 inches of stropping surface. They tend to be some of the ones that are the prettiest. I've got one coming up soon. I went through my so part of my collection is tucked away, original boxes, plastic, safe. I've got a couple in like strop sleeves, like leather strop cases, and strap boxes, stuff like that. But I've got a wall back here that's got a few hundred hanging on it, and within those, there's ones that I use, there's ones that I just admire, there's ones that I like, there's ones that need to be restored. I've got some that will never be restored because they are literally, they're gone. They're just too gone. I didn't get to them in time, and they're gonna die. So, and that's part of it. That doesn't mean I don't want them. I'm a strop collector. All of them deserve to be hung up somewhere. So the next one, I went through them and found all the ones that I need to restore, all the ones that I will get to when I can, and then separated them all. And I came across a few that I forgot I even had, which is actually common for me. But I did come across one that I really, really want to restore, and I think that I'm going to make a whole series on it and show it from start to finish, because it'll be the full shebang. Now, I've thought about doing a video of me restoring it with like, what do I want to say, like household material or homeowner style, not on like a professional level. I'm not going to use any tools that, you know, that you would have to buy, but do it with tools and materials that you know, it would be very common for someone to have laying around the house. A lot of work by hand. The problem is the strop is a dragon, and I would really like to do that one really well. So I might just make some videos of me doing it a little bit and then redo it all the way later. So I'm gonna cut this one short. It's almost 30 minutes of me blabbering on about nothing. If you're wondering how this stitch goes, it's a common type stitch. It's very simple once you know how to do it. But it's not a hard process is the whole thing. If you come across a strop that's in great shape and the handles are starting to fall apart, this is a job that anybody could do. You don't have to be special to do this job. It also gave me a chance to clean this leather or this linen really well. You know, when they have the leather handle on them, I can't just go soak this linen in the tub. This gave me a chance to not just soak the linen, but I also was allowed to take, which used to be the front side, which is the dirtiest, make it the back side so that the cleaner side is the one visible. So when it's all put back together, it's going to be a really sharp strop, and it'll be for sale. I just sold the Medal of Award Imperial Russia strop. Beautiful strop. I use one regularly. It's a good strap. And as always, if you purchase a strap from me, those come in telescoping tubes. I don't roll or bend or anything on my straps. They all come shipped properly. I try to keep the prices legitimate based on what I paid for them. They are getting more expensive, and the amount of work that I had to put into it. Most of the time when I restore a strop, it is quite a long process if I do it the way I was taught how to do it, and in the way that I have added to those teachings and found my way. It's a drawn out process, but what it definitely doesn't do is shock the leather. It doesn't stress the fibers. It doesn't ask too much out of it. It's just a nice, calm, patient process that in the end creates a strop that retains its original factory color, sheen, and feel, and gives you a very supple working strap, you know, that's not gonna stay bent while it's hanging straight or anything like that. I really put them through it to get them to where they're going. I've got a couple over there that have been hanging, just waiting for, you know, a long time. Years I've had straps waiting for me to get ready and start working on them. I'm just waiting for them to let gravity do the work. I've got some under some weight over there. I've got some wrapped in, you know what, I'm not going to get into my trade secrets, but just know that I've got straps that I've been marinating or premeditating for months and months before I start doing anything with them, because it's not steel. You can't just go ripping across it and bring it back to life. It's organic. It was once alive, and if you want really good results, it's best just to take your time, be patient, and be as polite to it as you would your own darn skin. All right, thank you, folks.